Welcome everybody to another video of Ancient Greece Reloaded. Today we will talk about the famous sorceress Medea, daughter of Aeetes, wife of Jason and granddaughter of the sun god Helios. By the way, if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so as to stay tuned for upcoming videos. Medea is a very famous female character in Greek mythology that is still very well known even today, for Medea was a central figure of the quest for the Golden Fleece and the adventures of Jason and the Argonauts. Medea appears in the majority of the most famous ancient sources, including Argonautica by Apollonius Rhodius, Histories by Herodotus, Theogony by Hesiod, and Metamorphoses by Ovid. There were also several plays in antiquity dedicated to Medea, including Medea by Euripides. According to the sources, Medea was a princess of Colchis, for she was the daughter of King Aeetes, born to his first wife, the Oceanid Aeetes. Thus, Medea had two siblings, or half-siblings, in the form of a sister, Chalkiope, and a brother, Apsyrtus. Being a daughter of Aeetes meant that Medea was a granddaughter of the Greek sun god Helios, and also a niece of Persis, as well as a niece to the sorceresses Pasiphae and Kirki. Sorcery would flow through the female line, and in Colchis Medea was the priestess of the goddess Hecate, not to mention the fact that Medea was almost equally skilled as her aunts. When Medea was first talked about, she resided at the land of Colchis, located at the farthest eastern parts of the known world, a land of mystery and wonders. Also, stories were told of how Aeetes, who originally came from Corinth, had transformed from a welcoming host to one that sent strangers to their death. All of that started to occur after the arrival in his kingdom of Phrixus and the Golden Fleece. The reason behind his transformation was that, according to a prophecy, Aeetes would lose his kingdom if he allowed the Golden Fleece to leave Colchis. Nevertheless, it was to Colchis that Jason and the Argonauts would sail, when Jason was tasked by Peleus to bring the Golden Fleece to Colchis. Jason was a favored mortal of Hera and Athena, and it was these two Olympian goddesses who enlisted the services of Aphrodite to ensure that Medea would fall in love with Jason. Medea would thus offer to help Jason in the removal of the Golden Fleece from the grove of Ares if he would promise to marry her, and of course, Jason readily agreed to marry Medea. Aeetes would set Jason a number of deadly tasks to ensure that the Golden Fleece remained in Colchis, but with each task, Medea would come to the aid of Jason. Thus, Medea helped Jason to yoke the fire-breathing bulls of Aeetes, providing the Greek hero with a potion to prevent him from being burned. Medea also told Jason how to ensure that the Sparti, the warriors born from the sown dragon's teeth, would kill each other rather than Jason. And finally, it was Medea who put the Colchian dragon to sleep, ensuring Jason could remove the Golden Fleece from its branches. Now, a princess going against her father would normally end with the death of the daughter, as was the case with Scylla, daughter of Nissos, and Cometho, daughter of Pterelaos. But in the case of Medea, this was not the case, and Medea left Colchis on board the Argo. Aeetes, having discovered the theft of the Golden Fleece, dispatched the Colchian fleet in pursuit of the Argo, and it proved an impossible task for the Argo to outpace the whole fleet. Medea was then said to have concocted a plan that would delay the pursuit, and it was one that involved fratricide. What Medea did was to gradually dismember her brother's dead body and throw his body parts in the sea, forcing the fleet to stop so as to collect the body parts. This slowing of the Colchian fleet allowed the Argo to sail away. The journey back to Colchis was a long and dangerous one, and had a number of in-between stops. One such point was on the island of Kirki. Kirki was of course Medea's aunt, and it was said that Kirki absolved Medea and Jason of the killing of Apsyrtus. A second stop proved to be the island of Crete, and once again, Medea's help proved to be of great importance in saving the Argo and its crew. At the time, Crete was protected by Talos, the bronze automaton, who circled around the island protecting it from invaders and throwing rocks at unwanted ships. Medea, with the use of herbs and potions, disabled Talos, and perhaps ensured that the lifeblood of the automaton drained away. It was also said that Jason kept his promise to Medea on the return journey, with Medea and Jason getting married. The marriage of Medea and Jason was said to have occurred upon the island of Drepani, which at the time was ruled by King Alkinoos. The Colchian fleet had once again caught up with the Argo, but as Queen Aeetes had married Medea and Jason, Alkinoos would not give the pair up, and so the fleet of King Aeetes returned home, empty-handed. Finally, the Argo, carrying Jason, Medea, and the Argonauts, returned to Iolcus, much to the angst of King Pelias, who had presumed the quest would be a deadly one for Jason. Jason, though, had succeeded just as Hera had planned, for the gods of Mount Olympus were seeking to punish Pelias, and ultimately Medea was being manipulated by the gods, just as she had been when she had first fallen in love with Jason. Named as the Curse of Pelias, it was the ultimate aim of the gods to see Pelias die through the work of Medea. Pelias did not immediately relinquish the throne of Iolcus, as he had promised if Jason was successful in his quest, and Medea began to work in manipulating the daughters of the king. Medea showed that she could rejuvenate an old sheep, transforming it into a young lamp, by cutting it up, putting it into a cauldron, and then by applying herbs to the cauldron. The result was a success. Medea promised that she could make Pelias young once again, through the same method. Thus, the daughters of King Pelias cut up their own father and placed the bits of his body into a cauldron, but of course a young King Pelias did not emerge. All that the daughters had achieved was the murder of their own father. Some sources state that Medea rejuvenated Aeson, the father of Jason, although in most cases it was said that Aeson was dead by the time his son returned to Iolcus. Jason and Medea would not benefit from the death of King Pelias, for Acastus, the son of Pelias, succeeded his father to the throne. Despite Medea being responsible for the death of Pelias, she could not be tried for murder, for it were Acastus' own sisters who had done the deed. But Acastus did exile Medea and Jason, forbidding them from returning to Iolcus. Medea and Jason would make a new home for themselves in Corinth, a city where they stayed for around 10 years. Medea would give birth to a number of children by Jason, and depending on the source the children were Alcmenes, Thessalus, Tisander, Mermeros, Pheres, Eriopis, and Medus. Nevertheless, Medea and Jason were not to live out their lives happily in Corinth. It is commonly said that Jason began to tire of being married to Medea, for in Corinth Medea was perceived to be a barbarian, as were all those who came from Colchis. To make a better life for himself, it was arranged that Jason would marry Glaphi, the daughter of King Creon of Corinth. Now, how Jason expected the sorceress Medea to take this engagement is unknown, but Medea reacted just as everyone else expected her to, with murderous intent. Medea developed a deadly potion and then covered a rope with this poison, before secretly sending this rope to Glaphi. Taken by the beauty of the rope, and of course unaware of its deadly poison, Glaphi put the rope on, but immediately poison soaked into her skin, causing her to cry out in pain. King Creon heard the screams of his daughter and attempted to remove the rope, but by grabbing it, poison also started to race through Creon, and he died. Having killed Jason's fiancée, Medea now sought to inflict more pain upon Jason, for it was said that the Colchian sorceress killed some of her own sons. Of course, the sources are not so clear about it. Alternatively, some tell of how Medea did not commit filicide, but some of the children were killed by the people of Corinth in revenge for the death of their king. Nevertheless, Medea would now flee from Corinth without Jason, and some tell of how she called forth a chariot pulled by 2 dragons to aid her escape. Medea was said to have traveled to Athens, which at the time was ruled by King Aeetes. Aeetes was desperately trying to produce a male heir for many years, so that he could pass on the Athenian throne to his son. Medea would work on this desire of King Aeetes, and very quickly Medea and Aeetes would wed, for the sorceress had promised that a male son would come from their union. And Medea would keep her word, for Aeetes was subsequently said to have become father to a son, Medus. However, there was another son of King Aeetes that the king was unaware of, namely Theseus. When of age, Theseus arrived in Athens, although King Aeetes did not immediately recognize his own son. Medea, though, did recognize the stranger for who he was, and realized that if Theseus was allowed to live, then Medos would not ascend to the throne of Athens. Thus, Medea quickly convinced Aeetes to send the stranger on a quest to capture the Marathonian bull. The Marathonian bull, which had previously been captured by Heracles when it was known as the Cretan bull, was causing death and destruction in the countryside around Athens. Theseus proved to be the equal of Heracles in this quest, and the son of Aeetes returned to Athens and sacrificed the bull to the gods. Nevertheless, Medea had another go at killing Theseus by convincing Aeetes that the stranger was a threat to the throne, and thus she crafted a poison for him to drink. Before Theseus drank from the poisoned chalice though, Aeetes finally recognized the sword that Theseus was in possession of, which was given to his mother, and dashed the chalice aside. Medea was thus forced to leave her home once again, this time taking flight with Medos in tow. There was no place left in Greece that would welcome Medea now, and so Medea decided to return to her original home, Colchis. Colchis had changed greatly since Medea had first left, and Aeetes had lost the throne after the loss of the Golden Fleece, just as it had been prophesied. His own brother, Perseus, had usurped Aeetes. Medea would intervene to ensure that Aeetes would once again become king, and thus, through her sorcery, Perseus was killed, and Aeetes was restored to the Colchian throne. Aeetes would eventually die of old age, but then Medos, Medea's own son, would become king of Colchis, and the story of Medea concludes. Let us finish with the following saying: "There is nothing better than a good wife." Hesiod. That being said, remember guys to hit the like button and to subscribe to our channel, it would help us a lot. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for upcoming videos.